All right. So we have our drawing, and I'm going to trace it. So I do want to tape it down because I'm going to have to tuck in the tail a little bit more. The paper that I'm going to transfer it to is this one here, which is a little smaller. So the tail is going to be adjusted to suit. So you keep your reference with you, even if you've got it pretty well worked out, because you might find you want to make have a pencil that doesn't actually have a broken tip, and it will be in good shape. All right. Now there's two ways to do this. If you don't have transfer paper, you can trace it and then just transfer some graphite to the back of the drawing and transfer it to your final piece. But we'll edit this down. Or we're recording it. This part will be edited out. She's got such low body fat, and we really want to make sure that we get all of those really cool overlaps of the muscles, so you can see every sinew in her arm. Here's the deltoids, and here's the bicep. You see the bicep goes between the deltoid and the deltoids go between the biceps and the triceps there. And we can also see on her in particular, on this particular model, the pectoralis also arching up. There might be a little bit of a bone protruding through because her arm is rotated so strongly that it could be part of the scapula poking through there a little bit too. So even when when you're doing animation or you're doing anything that's working strongly with line, the trick to doing three-dimensional objects with line is going to be overlap. So look for those overlaps. The overlaps are going to be your saving grace. So we've already worked out the figure. If you guys were here the last time, we worked out the basic construction of the figure. So that makes it easier for us to then transfer it to a clean sheet to do a painting. It's also helpful when you're tracing it to have the reference, because sometimes you can't always see clearly through the tracing paper. I can see actually all 4 knuckles on my reference, and I can't see them through the tracing paper very well. Now, I remember you can see them here, I put thin things on her arms because I thought that would look cool. So if you're a lefty, then you should be always starting from this side, working this way. And you should have your light on the right hand side as well. Since I'm a righty, I work from the left to the right, and I have my light on the right side. That way, you're not shadowing your own self. Shoot. See how high her trapezius is, and then her ear. So keep using a sharp. Should really be using a 2B, but I think I got rid of all my 2Bs. I wasn't really happy with the way her face came out when I did it originally, so I'm going to try to fix it a little bit if I can at this point. Of course, she's a mermaid, so she's going to be a little creepy looking anyway, and that's all right. But I don't want her to be evil looking. They're supposed to be beautiful, right? Mermaids are supposed to be beautiful, theoretically. Notice for the jaw, you go back with the jaw and then you get to the ear. It's always a nice little landmark. And I wanted her hair to be, at this point I can experiment a little bit with her hair and make it more seaweed-like, which I didn't do on the original drawing, but I can do it on the tracing. Maybe some pieces will go in front, some pieces will go behind. But I always wonder, do mermaids lay eggs or do they have live birth? Are they like platypuses that lay eggs but yet also have nursed their young? Questions. I love these flexors that are showing up in her hip, but of course by this point she becomes more fish than human. Tuck her tail in. And I want to get the impression of her torso rotating, because her hips are rotating this way. So I want to get that impression there. Now, believe it or not, marine mammals do have a pelvis. Sometimes it's just a vestigial, and there might only be a tiny little piece of bone in there. Now, I'm going to switch over to finish doing this face here. A few more lines indicating there's her deltoids there. Traps are really up high. I'm going to pull those down a little bit. So don't be afraid to make corrections even at this late stage. Yeah, so at this point, I want to switch over to my fish. I have two fish. I love that tail. So if I wanted to get that tail on her, I really need to rotate it. Haha. Yes, look at that. Isn't that cool? I can actually follow this line of the fish, now that the fish is upside down, to create this amazing tail. Oh, this is going to be so cool. Of course, her tail's going to go off here, but oh well. It's okay. I'm still going to have a lot of fun painting this tail. So, this like here. This can be the fin that goes behind it. Haha. All right. All right, I'm backing up on the chat box. There's stuff I didn't see. 2Bs. Yeah, I can get them in dozens. I usually get them by the dozen. But I always use up the 4Bs and 6Bs and 8Bs before I use up the 2Bs, so I don't replace them as quickly. All right, so now I've got my tracing. This is going to be my painting. I like to, for watercolor, like what we're doing here today, I like to use, oh, look, there was my fairy. No, we didn't finish this guy. I like to use the watercolor block because it's sealed all the way around and allows you to, you don't have to tape down. If you're using straight watercolor paper that you buy by the sheet, you have to stretch it, wet it, stretch it, tape it down to a board before you can work on it. But when you have it on a block, it holds it down all around the edges. And that's good. All right. Now this transfer paper comes in several different colors. And this one is blue. I figured I'm probably going to use a lot of blue. And you can see you can reuse it a number of times. You see there's already been some use on this. It's also got some oil marks on it, probably from oil paint, because I use it for my canvases all the time. But that shouldn't affect us. So I'll put my transfer paper down, color side down. Tape it. And then another nice thing about transferring is that you can position your drawing. Oh, she's still going to go off the bottom of this page. Well, that's all right. Actually, since I think her arm is a little bit long and it's coming off the top of the page, I'm going to shorten it a little bit. This is another really cool thing that you can do with when you do use tracing paper. I'm going to shorten it a little bit, and then when I paint it, I'll make it look like it's going more back into the scene. And that way, she'll fit a little bit better. I'm still okay with that arm because I think I made it a little bit on the long side. Now she fits. There's the bottom of the page. There's the top of the page. Yep, just barely squeezing it on here. All right, so to transfer this to the paper, I'm going to use a ballpoint pen because I'll be able to see what I've transferred. Also, you want to be super careful not to press too hard. So if you press too hard, you will dent the paper, and if you dent the paper, then you damage the surface of the paper, and that's really bad. It'd be even better if I was using a red ballpoint pen, because then I could really see where I was going. So I want to make sure that this paper transfers. Sometimes it doesn't work. And you want to make sure you press hard enough to transfer it, but not so hard that you damage the paper. Oh, beautiful. Okay. Now, another nice thing about this transfer paper is it's not waxy, because if it was waxy, it would resist the paint, and that would be a disaster. I think I got everything I need to get. Okay. I'll save this for another day. So I've got the basic of my drawing transferred, and I still have my original drawing I can use as reference if I want to for shadows and things. And I'll put some basic wash on the background here just to get us started. and then we'll stop and finish the painting part. Yep, I am recording it. We'll finish the painting part on Sunday. So we have some brushes. I have a wide variety of brushes, all kinds of brushes that I like to use. And a little tin for water. Another cool thing about watercolor is that it's always can be reconstituted, although you shouldn't paint it on too much of an angle unless you like to make it run. Okay, so I'm going to do like a basic wash on the back. Sorry. And I like to paint wet on wet. So I'm going to put some water on the background to do the kind of, you know, with watercolors, you kind of have to paint backwards from other kinds of paints because you don't want to, you have to save your whites. And once you get paint down on something, it's really hard to get it off. Oh, cat hair. There's always cat hair in my paintings. And I'm just using, like, there's this little cerulean here. And I think I've got a little alizarin, I mean not alizarin, ultramarine. And I want it to spread. And I want it to drip. This will be the background. Some people use a masking fluid, which will protect the whites. But I'm not going to do that. I had a gal who was teaching me watercolor years ago, and she always said, make your palette dirty. You should get these other little colors into it because if you have your colors are too bright, they'll look unnatural. So that's another reason why I keep my palette like really messy, which I would never do with oil paints. Actually, I'm going to do this. I love it when it does that. That's so cool. First rule of watercolor, don't try to control it. You got to work with it and let it do what it wants. going to do what it wants anyway. And if you try to control it too much, you'll just frustrate yourself and the paint. You see, I only wetted it to the edge there, so now the water is running along where the edge is wet. So if I'm careful, it won't run across my figure. I just want it to run along the edge of where it's already wet. I want to put a little green in it. Oops. Not that green, though. I don't like that green. Okay, so I've kind of laid my foundation and set my color key. And when we meet again on Sunday, we shall do the rest of it. In the meantime, I'm going to do a little sketching in here to work out some of the finer details. So it'll be more, the drawing will be more complete, more detailed before we come back on Sunday. All right, guys, it's almost 3:30, so.
Ouch.
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 I am.
I think I sprained an arm muscle.
Oh, don't do that.
No, actually, I'm still working on that